talking.
All right, thank you. That was Doug Sheehan from the Sheehan Sports Hour Wednesday nights on VictoryLaneRadio.com. And his show's coming back in the new year. And on now is former Major League Baseball player for the Cubs, the Padres, a bunch of teams, Scott Sanders. How you doing tonight, Scott?
How's it going, Hammer? Doing good, brother. How you doing?
Man, it's great to have you back on. It's funny, I reached out to you during the World Series to get you on, and we just couldn't make the connection because it was so loud. You were at the games and stuff, and I really wanted to talk to you about the World Series and everything like that, and I appreciate you coming back on. Once again, thanks to Signatures for Soldiers, nonprofit organization, for connecting me and you together, and Stacy Beck's foundation, Pitch for Kids, and that's Pitch, the number 4, and then Kids with a Z on Facebook. It's a great organization that she does. That's Rod Beck's wife. So we'll just jump right into it, Scott. How was it as a former player of the Cubs, attending the games, as a fan now, and watching them win the World Series? How was that? How was that experience for you?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, what a great playoffs and World Series it was. For the game of baseball, it was one of those, sometimes it's amazing how, you could go through ups and downs and peaks and valleys of, that was kind of a great series. It was kind of a boring series, Sometimes guys win in 5, but first of all, for the Cubs to be involved in it was, for the Cubs are America's team. No matter how you cut it up, going back to the WGN days, everybody, somewhere, every city you go to, everywhere you go, there's Cubs fans everywhere because they grew up watching Ryan Sandberg and Bo Durham and Leon Durham and those guys, Rick Sutcliffe, in the good old days with Harry Carey and Steve Stone, and so people genuinely love the Cubs because at the end of the day, the Cubs never win. They've been, so many years since they won a World Series, so that, with the love of the losers, they call them, but what you take all of that and you put it in a big ball of wax, and then, now you put it into to today's big game of baseball. It was electric. The whole city was buzzing. We got up. Me and my girlfriend went up there, and we got there on Friday around 2:00, and downtown was crazy. We got on the train and went down. The train was packed, and you walk out in Sheffield, and all those the streets were packed, and the stands were packed, the bars were packed, the rooftops were packed. And it was just electric. I actually ended up watching game 3 and 4 from the rooftop, and from the actual original first ever rooftop. I ended up meeting the 2 owners there, and they invited myself and my girlfriend in to watch the games. And it was, I'll be honest, my first time ever being involved in being up on a rooftop and watching the games. And I'll be honest, it was just as much fun for me. I've been in that stadium so many times. Luckily I was on that field looking at the 50, 60, 50,000 people down looking on you. But from the rooftop, it was amazing. But the electricity, the excitement, it was amazing. I was so happy for not only for the Cubs, but for the city of Chicago. And obviously they ended up winning, so it was even better.
Yeah, it's everybody tuning in and listening to the Hollering with Hammer show on VictoryLaneRadio.com. Joining me tonight is Scott Sanders, former Major League Baseball player. Now, I actually wanted to touch on that. We're friends on Facebook, and I saw the pictures of you up on the rooftop. It looked like a blast. The rooftop was packed and everything. And you actually, you and your girlfriend actually made newspapers. I see the picture of you guys on the internet from newspapers standing up on the roof. Now, I've never been on a roof, to watch a game. And what is that like? Cause that, it was packed up there, and I know that was like the first rooftop and all that. And is that a different experience being up there and basically like looking straight down on the field like that? It was a different view than like an upper deck view because you're looking in,
Yeah, it was definitely different. And I'll be honest, when I got there, I've been knowing Theo Epstein for many, many years since he was 18 years old. Jason McLeod was the number 3 guy. It's Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer, who's the GM, and then Jason is right below Jed, right below GM, and those two guys are good friends of mine. And I told them, I say, I'm coming to town. I know tickets are rough, so don't worry about me. But if something comes open, let me know. You know what I mean? And so obviously, I got Jason messaged me and said, hey, he said, Sam, man, I'm sending. I don't even know for my family. You know what I mean? So he said, if I hear something, I'll let you know. So I ended up walking by this one place, and then I saw a guy, and I was like, I told him, I said, listen, can I just walk up and just see the rooftop? I said, I said, I've been inside there. I played for the Cubs in '99, and the guy was like, well, we're kind of full. I said, I know you're full. I said, just hear me out. I need just 2 minutes. I said, I just want to see it. And he asked me, and he said, what's your name? He looked for me, and I told him, my name was, Scott Sanders, played 90. He said, okay, I remember your name, Scott. And he said, let's go in. So I ended up, and, it was one of the owners, and then I met the second owner inside, and we really hit it off, you know what I mean? And so they ended up walking us to the top, and showed us 5 different levels of this beautiful house with amazing, you know what I mean, food on every level. You could get beer, you could get wine, you could get soda, you could get water. And it had nice, a little bit better than ballpark food, you know what I mean? Everything was included. And we went to the top, and when we got to the top, they said, why don't you guys just stay and enjoy it? You know what I mean? And we watched the game, and, the best way I can really, it's almost like you're at the stadium, but you're almost at a private party, like looking into the stadium, which is, to me, is even better than probably being in the stadium, because you don't have to stand in concession stand lines. You don't have to stand in line for the bathroom. You don't, it was like, but the thing about it was you could feel the energy from the field. It was amazing how it was literally you were inside the field, and and then the people were there. It's like, so you have, they had 200 people in that rooftop, and so it was probably 198 Cubs fans and probably 2 Indian fans. I mean, every night they had a couple Indian fans that showed up. I mean, but most of it was Cubs fans, and so it was almost like you actually. It was even a better setting than in the stadium because it was like 200 people. It was like you're all on the same team cheering. Whereas when you're in the stadium, you go with 2 or 3 people and you're with them, but everybody else around you is kind of keeping to themselves. But this place is almost like literally, it's like you're at home in a party, and you just high-fiving everybody, and, guys are going excited. And it was honestly, at the end of the day, when I got home, a couple of friends said, man, weren't you bummed out you didn't get in the stadium? I said, no. I said, once I watched the game on the rooftop, I said, I'll probably never want to watch another game at Wrigley besides from the rooftop. You know what I mean? I said, it was amazing.
Yeah, the pictures. I mean, you were up there. I seen the pictures. It was wild. It's definitely something I'd like to do at some point. But I mean, it's got to be obviously World Series atmosphere. Now, one thing you had touched on, you had said there was a couple Indians fans there. Now, you were in the Indians organization for a short period. Am I correct on that? You had signed with the Indians. So how, like, obviously you were going for the Cubs. I mean, but the Indians hadn't been there in 50-something years themselves, and hadn't won it. So that was a big part of the deal. How was your experience with the Indians? Like, when you were in their organization briefly, or did you just not even care? Like, I was technically with the Indians and the Cubs, or was it just I'm with the Cubs and that's it? Like in your mind, watching the series.
Yeah, no, honestly, 100% I was with the Cubs because mainly because of the guys that I've been knowing since like Theo and Jason. I've been knowing them so long. Obviously, I played with the Cubs a full season with the Cubs. Because my heart and soul was with the Cubs in that series. I was in 2000. I signed a free agent contract with the Indians. I went to Buffalo for about a month, and I got called up. And I pitched one game against the Detroit Tigers and didn't pitch too good. And what happened? The game got rained out. So I went like 2 1/3 or something, and then it got rained out. The game got canceled, and then they needed to they made the second game. They made that Friday night game up on Sunday, so they sent me back to the minor leagues to call up another guy to pitch on Sunday. And once they did that, basically they pretty much told me, "This guy, you probably not going to get called back up. You can go to Buffalo, or we can let you go, and you can go somewhere else." So what I ended up doing, I ended up signing. I went to the West Coast. I went back to the West Coast and signed with a minor league team. So literally, I had one game of my career with the Indians, but it doesn't show on my stats because it got rained out. So I pitched for them one time, but it's nowhere on paper. So honestly, I really don't have any ties to Cleveland. I went over there. Honestly, the reason I went over there is because Jim Riggleman, who was my manager from the year before with the Cubs in '99, he went over there to be the third base coach, and I'm sorry, he went over there to be the bench coach. So literally, he's the one that, he told them, hey, please go out and get this guy. He said, because he's somebody who can help us. And my arm was that year, my arm was kind of shot. So I wasn't much help to anybody, to be honest, that year. So it did surprise them when they told me they weren't going to give me a second chance. But that's what baseball's about,
Yeah. I'm glad you come on often onto the show, because I just got tons of stuff to ask you. And but I'm gonna skip some of it. I want to go into the Theo Epstein thing briefly.
Yeah.
This network is nationwide, but it's heavy in New England, and a lot of people, involved in the network and stuff from the Massachusetts area. Boston Red Sox, obviously. Theo Epstein, I mean, he's got something figured out, and you said he's somebody that you've known since he was 18 years old. What is it there? I mean, is there something that you see? I mean, it's beyond Billy Bean type, deal at this point.
Yeah.
Is there really something there that nobody else has figured out? Because what he's done with the Red Sox and the Cubs is unbelievable.
Yeah. The two teams that he has taken over and literally basically broke the curses, from the two toughest curses in the history of baseball. You know what I mean? I tell you the story, Billy, of Theo Epstein. So I remember he was 18 years old. Larry Lucchino, who was the president of the Padres at the time, he was an Ivy Leaguer. Played high school baseball, loved the game. Obviously, I don't think he was good enough to play college, so he was an Ivy League kid. You know what I mean? Lucchino would bring him over every summer to San Diego. The first time I ever met Theo, he was literally holding the radar gun behind home plate. And he'd say, like, he'd do the radar gun, and he'd do a walkie-talkie to upstairs and be like, fastball 91. You know what I mean? And then Jason, who is his number 3 man now, below Jed, right below his GM, was back there with him all the time too. They were always together. And, so literally, Lucchino took him from the baby steps of baseball front office and taught him each and every step. He'd go back to school in the fall. He'd come back in the summer, and each summer they'd give him more information and teach him more about the game. And honestly, number one, he's super duper sharp. You know what I mean? Number two, he was lucky he was around a lot of good people, in baseball. And number three, he learned. He didn't just take the information and not do anything with it. And then obviously, he worked for the Padres once he got out of school, and they just kept bumping him up, teaching him everything about scouting, about player development, about contracts, and he just kept teaching and kept teaching. And I think he was like 28 or 30 when Boston hired him to be the GM. I want to say, because what happened, Lucchino took off to the Red Sox, and when he did, he plucked Theo and said, "You're coming with me." He basically made him the GM. So the good thing is Lucchino, who was a very, very, very sharp baseball mind, so Theo had a really good mentor to always number one, look after him, and number two, make sure he learned, and number three, kept him just climbing the charts and learning. So, then he took over Boston, and he's very sharp at getting rid of bad contracts, giving good contracts, and then turn around. He's really good at taking the farm system and making sure that the farm system is deep, and that's what he's done in Chicago. He took over. He had some terrible contracts. He got rid of all the bad contracts, and sometimes you take heat when you give away bad contracts, because when you send somebody away and you give them $60 million, like, wow, what are you doing? But at the end of the day, it's better to get rid of a bad contract than keep them, because now you can take someone like a Schwarber and put him in the lineup instead of keeping him in AAA, because you have to pay somebody who's getting overpaid and getting just because he's making $15 million a year doesn't mean he has to play. Just like Jason Hayward. Jason Hayward was making $16 million, and he was on the bench for the playoffs. Did you know why? Because the Cubs, they want to win the World Series. Does Jason Hayward get upset? He didn't, because Jason Hayward wants to win a World Series as well. So it's very tricky, but Theo is a very, very sharp, cutting edge, and Billy Bean is Billy Bean, but Billy Bean is who he is because he doesn't have a budget. Theo has been very blessed with the teams he's been with. Boston can have a nice budget. So can the Chicago Cubs. But it doesn't matter. everybody before him had that same budget, but he did something with the budget and won championships with it.
Yeah, and he goes in history there with breaking Boston's curse and Chicago's curse. I'm a diehard New York Yankee fan. You got Brian Cashman, but Brian Cashman is a great GM in my eyes, but he always had the money. He had more money than anybody else had to work with. And, I think, when Theo first stepped in Boston, the money wasn't quite there. The money started coming, and, TV deals started coming, stuff like that. Now, do you see someone like Theo Epstein moving on from the Cubs, or do you see him staying there? I mean, he's won there. I mean, do you see him starting over somewhere else?
The one place I could see him end up being is back in San Diego one day. Besides there, I mean, I don't know what other fish he really has to fry, to be honest. I think the next place he would probably, this is just my opinion, not asking him, but just knowing him, I would think the next thing he would think was, okay, one in Boston, that's his home, you know what I mean? One in Chicago, that's America's team. Now, the only other place that would probably be nice to win a World Series is San Diego, you know what I mean? Because, hey, that's where you got to start, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, anytime you can win with somebody who got you started in the game, that's what you would like to do. But to be honest, if he goes to San Diego and wins the World Series, then he will have to go down as the greatest GM in the history. He probably already is the top five already, you know what I mean? Probably top three now to think about it, you know what I mean? But you take San Diego makes sense to me, whatever happened, I don't know. I mean, he's still young. I think he's 41 years old, maybe. He might be 40. You know what I mean? He's barely, I don't even know, he might, some of that range, you know what I mean? So he's got many, many years of work, but I'll be honest, the other thing too is he always has an incredible staff below him, like my buddy Jason McLeod. He's this top scouting guy, you know what I mean? It's only a matter of time before somebody's going to hire Jason as a GM, you know what I mean? And Jason did the same exact thing as Theo. Literally, they took Jason and taught him each and every spot. You know what I mean? The only thing different, Jason was an ex-player, played minor league baseball, so he actually did some coaching on the field, which Theo never did. He did everything Theo did, plus he did some coaching. You know what I mean? But I don't see. I mean, Theo is as long as he's rolling in Chicago will be a really tough place to leave because the Ricketts take really good care of their people. They got a beautiful facility out in Phoenix for spring training. I mean, Wrigley Field is the one place. Wrigley's the best thing about being and playing for the Cubs is you play 60 day games and probably 21 night games, somewhere in that range. So that's the only time you really feel like a regular person who goes to work in the morning and gets off at 5 o'clock. Every other baseball player is total opposite. You have 60 some games at night and maybe 15 to 20 during the day. So literally, you go to work at 3, you get home at midnight. But in Chicago, you almost have, it's like a 9 to 5. I mean, literally, you get to the park at 9, the game's over with by 5. So it's a field that no other baseball team in the history of Major League Baseball has once everybody got lights at the stadium. You know what I mean? So it's a feeling that, number one, it's probably one of the top, besides the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Cubs. You know what I mean? You're looking at those three. That's the three top organizations. And so I don't know why he would want to leave there and go somewhere else. But hey, sometimes people have goals in life, and his next step might be San Diego, but you never know.
Yeah, I was thinking San Diego myself, but I don't know. Maybe you would want to stay with the Cubs. We actually got about 3 minutes left. I'm closing the show tonight at 8 o'clock, and I'm actually playing a 6-minute song before I leave of a band I had on last week. I'd like to say thank you to Signatures for Soldiers. You can find them on Facebook, nonprofit organization, and Pitch, the number 4, and then Kids with a Z on Facebook, and check them out. Scott, I got a bunch of stuff to talk to you. We got 2 minutes. I'll go fast with it. Next time we have you on, man, we got to talk about this hip-hop song. Not too many baseball players have their own hip-hop song out there. Do the Scott Sanders. I saw that on YouTube today. If you want to say what that's all about real quick.
Yeah, real quick. That's a buddy of mine, Calvin Kohler. his nickname is Rooster. We played high school basketball together. And Rooster took off at the age of 19 or 20, went to the military, and just climbed the ranks. He's big time now in the military. He's always been a good friend of mine, and he's on my Facebook too all the time. And so one day, my girlfriend posted a picture of me dancing, goofing off with the kids one day, and he saw it. He's like, "I'm gonna write a song for you, Sandman." I was like, "That sounds good, Rooster." So he wrote it for me. He loves music. He loves hip hop. He's got a couple little rap. He put a couple rap albums out. You know what I mean, but he's really one of my favorite people on earth because he's very positive. He's very vocal. He's very funny. But he's one of those guys. He's a ride or die brother. You know what I mean? And he wrote that song for me. Everybody loved it when he put it on Facebook, and then he put it on YouTube too. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that video and put it on a Hollering with Hammer Facebook page later on. And in January, when the new year starts and I have you back on, when we start talking, upcoming season and stuff, we're going to start the show with that song. I wanted to touch in on some stuff that we never got to talk to last time. Like I said, there's so much I want to get to with you, but we're right up against the clock. I really appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to having you on in January, Scott.
For sure, Hammer. Thanks for having me. I'm here anytime. Let me know if I don't talk to you before the holidays. Happy holidays and happy New Year. And I'll see you after the New Year.
Yep. Happy holidays to you and your family also, Scott. That was Scott Sanders, former Major League Baseball player. He played for the Cubs, the Padres. I really enjoy having him on. He's a wealth of baseball knowledge. And, if I could have him on every week, I would. He played 14 years, professional, 7 in the majors. He's a standout guy. He's got stories about everything. And, I really enjoy having him on, and I know the fans do because I get a big feedback when he's on. This is the Hollering with Hammer show on VictoryLaneRadio.com, and